Welcome to the Red Pill Podcast, powered by AgencyX.net. Explore AI-driven creativity, groundbreaking innovations, and industry insights, all in one game-changing podcast. Enjoy.
Have you ever found yourself sitting at your computer, staring at like a brand new, highly rated software application and just feeling completely frustrated?
Oh, yeah.
Every single day. Right, because you realize you have to adapt your own unique way of working to fit it into this totally rigid, one-size-fits-all app.
It is exhausting.
Or maybe you're just, financially exhausted. You're tired of paying for 5 different software subscriptions just to glue your daily workflow together with digital duct tape and a few prayers.
Yep, the old digital duct tape.
Exactly. And if you've ever felt that very specific type of modern digital fatigue, you're going to absolutely love where this deep dive into the source material is heading today.
It's such a universal frustration at this point. We've basically accepted this reality where we bend our cognitive processes to the software rather than the software bending to us.
Exactly. And today, we have a single, highly fascinating source guiding our deep dive. It's this April 2026 article from Agency X, and it's titled, "The Software We Lost and How Vibe Coding is Bringing It Back."
It's a great piece.
It really is. And the mission today is to explore this massive shift that's happening right now in how we interact with technology. We're moving away from that generic, expensive, subscription-based software and returning to, quirky, hyper-personalized tools that are built just for you.
Yeah, and it's a paradigm shift that changes not just what tools we use, but, our entire relationship with our digital environments. And honestly, who actually owns our workflows?
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can really grasp the solution here, which the article calls vibe coding, we first have to understand the core problem. We have to understand exactly what we lost over the last decade when software became relentlessly hyper-commercialized.
Right, we lost a lot.
We really did. Think back to early software. Remember the tools that were built for one highly specific workflow or like one small team?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes a program was literally built by one person just to solve their own very niche problem.
Yeah, and those early tools had a very distinct nature.
They did. They were often really imperfect. They were sometimes incredibly fragile, too, like prone to crashing if you just entered a date format incorrectly.
Oh, I remember those days. One wrong slash and the whole thing shuts down.
Exactly. And frequently, they were just unceremoniously discontinued by the lone developer who built them. But they had one defining characteristic that modern apps completely lack.
What was that?
They fit. They fit the exact problem they were trying to solve, without this massive layer of corporate bloat.
Yes. And when those idiosyncratic programs vanished, they didn't just leave a gap in functionality, they left behind a missing feel.
A feel, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Because today's software landscape is highly centralized and totally standardized. If a modern application doesn't quite fit your needs, the developers don't really care because you're just one of 10 million users.
You're just a statistic to them.
Right. You either adapt your brain to their system or you end up stringing together a Frankenstein monster of different apps. Thinking about this, modern software is like buying a mass-produced, one-size-fits-all suit.
I like that analogy.
Thanks. It covers you, sure. It technically gets the job done, but the sleeves are just a little too long, the shoulders are tight in a weird way, and it never actually feels like it belongs to you.
Right.
That old software we lost, on the other hand, was like a bespoke jacket. Maybe the stitching was a little crooked in one place because it was made by hand, but it was tailored exactly to the contours of your body. It moved when you moved.
And, the standardization of that mass-produced suit, that was an inevitable result of the business model.
How so?
Well, from an economic standpoint, building custom software for individual workflows just does not scale. When the tech industry fully pivoted to a subscription model, companies needed to build products that appealed to the largest possible denominator of users.
Just to keep those monthly metrics growing.
Exactly. They had to smooth out the rough edges and standardize the workflows to maximize profit. And, scaling for profit naturally destroys the hyper-specific nature of personal software. For years, that loss really felt permanent.
Which brings us to the most important question of our deep dive. Since we are currently stuck wearing these uncomfortable, mass-produced digital suits, how do we get that bespoke feel back without having to hire a team of professional developers?
Right, without spending a fortune.
Yeah, how do we bypass the master tailor? That causal question leads us directly to the turning point in the article, vibe coding.
Vibe coding, it's such a wild term.
It is. So break it down for us. What exactly is it?
Essentially, it's the process of building software conversationally and iteratively with the help of an AI.
Okay.
In the old paradigm, if you wanted to build an app, you had to start with incredibly rigid planning. You needed a perfectly articulated spec document, wireframes, flowcharts, and like a really deep understanding of syntax, variables, and database architecture.
All the stuff that makes regular people run away screaming.
Exactly. But vibe coding flips that entirely. You don't start with a spec document. You start with a feeling. You start with a vibe.
The prompt example from the text is just wild. It goes like this quote, "You know that old Note app I loved? Yeah, I want something like that, but with tagging like this, and it should export clean JSON."
That's the entire blueprint right there.
It's crazy. You're just talking to the AI like you would talk to a friend over coffee, describing a vague memory of a tool you miss. But wait, let me pause there for a second. For the non-developers listening, why is JSON the magic word in that prompt? What actually is that?
Okay, so JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation.
Okay.
But really, just think of JSON as the ultimate universal digital Tupperware.
Digital Tupperware, I love it.
Right. In the past, if you used a proprietary app, they stored your notes in a custom format. If you tried to move your notes to another app, they would come out as a scrambled mess. Your data was completely locked in.
Yeah, vendor lock-in. The worst.
Exactly. But by telling the AI to export clean JSON, you are demanding that the software stores your data in a perfectly structured, universally readable text format.
So anyone can read it?
Any modern software can pop the lid off that JSON Tupperware and use what's inside. It prevents vendor lock-in right from the start.
Okay, that makes sense. So you are setting the terms of your own data ownership from sentence 1. But wait, I have to push back on this slightly.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because I've played around with code generation, and it is rarely a one-shot miracle. Is it really that simple? Can you literally just talk a complex program into existence based on a vibe? Or does the iterative process mean you still have to spend hours wrestling with the AI to get it right?
That's a totally fair point.
Because if I have to spend my whole weekend arguing with the chatbot about database structures, I might just stick to my duct tape and prayers.
What's fascinating here is that the magic isn't in instant perfection. The AI doesn't read your mind and output a flawless enterprise-grade application on the first try. You absolutely will have to wrestle with it. But we need to look at the mechanism of that wrestling match.
What do you mean?
Well, in the past, testing a software idea took weeks of writing code just to see if a button worked. And if it crashed, you spent 3 days hunting for a missing semicolon on some obscure developer forum.
A literal nightmare for anyone who doesn't code for a living.
Right, but with vibe coding, the AI generates the prototype in seconds. You run it.
Yeah.
If it crashes, you don't hunt for the semicolon. You just copy the error message your computer spits out, paste it back to the AI and say, hey, it broke with this error.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the AI instantly parses the error, identifies its own mistake, and says, my bad, I used an outdated library function. Here is the updated block of code. The iteration loop shrinks from weeks to literal seconds.
That's incredible. So you are editing the intention, not the commas. So it's less about the AI being a flawless one-shot programmer and more about it being a tireless co-pilot that executes your revisions instantly. The friction is just gone.
Completely gone.
And if the barrier to entry is effectively zero, the immediate question is, what do you actually build? According to the deep dive into the source material, people are using this to resurrect the ghosts of software past.
We are seeing a massive resurgence of custom niche tools. I mean, people are building small, focused, in-house applications again simply because they finally can.
And the types of tools making a comeback are so wonderfully specific.
Oh, they really are.
We're talking about lightweight data managers built for highly obscure data sets, or like custom editors for weird niche file formats that enterprise software ignores because there just aren't enough users to justify supporting them.
Yeah, and internal dashboards that actually reflect a team's real daily workflows, rather than just displaying those generic corporate KPIs.
Yes, and personal knowledge systems where you aren't locked into someone else's database schema.
That point right there about database schemas is absolutely monumental.
Tell me more about that.
Well, a schema is basically the underlying blueprint of how your data is organized. First name, last name, date of birth, whatever. For decades, if a user wanted to categorize their research in a novel way, let's say you are tracking atmospheric data, and you desperately need a field for cloud density.
Right.
If the sauce provider didn't have a button for it, you were just out of luck. You had to wait for enterprise-level IT approval, submit a feature request, and just, hope they added it next year.
Which they never do.
Exactly. But vibe coding allows individuals to instantly rewrite the blueprint. If you want a cloud density field, you tell the AI, and the schema is updated locally in 2 seconds. You organize the world exactly as your brain sees it.
Think about your own files right now, Or that one weird workflow you have at your job. The text highlights a small research team that was relying heavily on a highly specific proprietary annotation tool that just got discontinued.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. And in the past, that team was ruined. But today, thanks to vibe coding, one person on that team can rebuild a working version of that lost tool in a matter of days.
Days, not months.
Exactly. They ask the AI to write a script that converts their old legacy data into that clean JSON Tupperware we talked about. They define their own unique tagging system, and they just keep tweaking the AI prompt until the software feels right again.
It really is the revival of the hyper-specific.
It totally is.
Like an obscure inventory database tool from 2012 that perfectly matched your brain, or a little script you wrote that died the second your operating system updated. Those things used to be digital casualties.
For now.
Now they were just a conversation away from being resurrected.
But, this brings up a critical structural question.
Okay, shoot.
If you are building these highly personal, bespoke tools using AI, aren't you just replacing one master with another? Aren't you trading your dependency on a centralized cloud software company for a dependency on a centralized cloud AI company?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. If the AI servers go down or they change their API rules, doesn't your bespoke tool break anyway? Actually, let's clarify that for a second. When we talk about API rules in this context, what are we really talking about?
So an API, or Application Programming Interface, is essentially a toll bridge between your computer and a cloud service.
A toll bridge. Okay.
Every time your custom app wants to analyze text, it has to send that text over the API bridge to a corporate server. The corporation sets the rules. They can throttle your speed, they can read your data, and they charge you a toll, maybe a fraction of a cent, every single time you cross that bridge.
Wow.
So your concern is entirely valid. If you build a custom app that relies on a cloud AI, you are still trapped by the toll bridge.
Which means we need a way to blow up the toll bridge entirely. And the solution provided here in the article is local LLMs, local language models.
Exactly.
The source specifically points to models like Gemma, which are designed to run right on your own machine, your laptop, your desktop. They do not need the internet to function at all.
And these local models, they act as the core logic engines, the conductors, really, for all these custom tools you're vibe coding. Because the model is sitting directly on your hard drive, it has intimate access to your files without ever uploading them to a corporate server.
Bypassing the toll bridge?
It bypasses the API toll bridge entirely.
So how does that actually work in practice? I want to visualize the mechanism here. The text uses an example where you sit at your computer and type, quote, "Take all my PDFs, extract the tables, normalize them, and store everything in a searchable local database."
Yeah.
How is a local program doing that without connecting to a massive server farm? PDFs are notoriously terrible to work with.
They are the worst. But it comes down to how these models process information through tokens and pattern matching. A PDF isn't actually text to a computer. It's often basically just a picture of text.
Right.
In the past, you needed massive cloud computing power to run optical character recognition, figure out where the columns of a table were, and translate that picture back into editable text.
Which is why we always needed the cloud.
Yeah, exactly. But modern local LLMs are multimodal, meaning they can process text, images, and audio natively. The local model looks at the PDF, recognizes the visual structure of the table, breaks the words down into tokens, and restructures those tokens into the exact database schema you created.
And it does all of this locally.
All on your local graphics card. No internet required.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If we rely on cloud-based AI to organize our digital lives, it's like having to physically mail all your personal private books and messy tax receipts to a massive central library in another state every time you need a fact checked.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
Right. It takes time, it costs postage, and someone else is opening your mail. But having a local LLM running your custom tools is like having a brilliantly efficient, entirely private librarian living inside your own house.
That is a perfect way to look at it. And that librarian doesn't just organize books on a shelf. If you hand them a crumpled, coffee-stained receipt, they don't just file the receipt in a folder.
What do?
They look at it, extract the date, the vendor name, the tax amount, and write those specific numbers directly into your personal ledger. And they do it entirely within the walls of your house. They never leave.
Wow.
They don't report your spending habits to an advertising firm. They just quietly and perfectly execute your workflows.
That level of privacy and autonomy is just staggering. And, having this private local librarian isn't just a fun technical flex for computer nerds. It solves one of the most painful, universal financial realities of modern digital life.
The subscriptions.
Look at your bank statement right now. Just think about the subscriptions you are paying for every single month.
It is the hidden tax of modern software. We've completely normalized absolute subscription chaos.
We all know the feeling. You start with 1 or 2 subscriptions for essential tools and it feels fine. $10 a month here, $15 there.
It doesn't seem like much at first.
No. But it adds up incredibly fast. Suddenly you realize you are paying $120 a year just for an app that stores text you've typed. You are dealing with creeping monthly costs that somehow go up every single year to please shareholders.
And your precious data becomes locked in their proprietary formats. If you stop paying the monthly fee, you lose access to your own work.
It's basically digital hostage-taking. You are constantly at the mercy of sudden price hikes or arbitrary feature changes that you have absolutely zero control over.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, vibe coding and local LLMs represent a fundamental shift in the macroeconomic reality of software. We're looking at an entirely new set of trade-offs.
Okay, lay them out for us.
Well, instead of paying recurring fees forever to rent a tool, you are trading that for upfront effort like the 20 minutes it takes to vibe code your own tool.
Which is nothing.
Right. Instead of vendor lock-in, you are trading up for true ownership. The tool runs locally on your machine in clean JSON format forever. And instead of bloated, generic features designed for 10 million people, you are trading that for exactly what you need. Nothing more, nothing less.
And the upfront effort we are trading for is shrinking drastically. What used to be a 6-month investment of time and capital requiring a whole dedicated engineering team is now literally an afternoon of chatting with a local language model on your laptop.
This fundamentally breaks the leverage that large SaaS companies have held over users for years.
It really does.
When the cost of producing bespoke software drops to essentially zero, the value of generic, mass-produced subscription software plummets. Why rent an oversized, uncomfortable suit for $50 a month when you can tailor your own bespoke jacket in an hour for free?
So what does this all mean? As we bring all these threads together, the insights from the Agency X article point to something much bigger than just a fondness for retro tech.
Right, this isn't just nostalgia for 2012.
No, we aren't just trying to recreate the past, it's a synthesis. We are taking that old specificity, that weird, charming, deeply personal feel of early software, and combining it with massive modern capabilities.
Exactly. We're infusing those hyper-niche workflows with multimodal interfaces.
Yeah.
The ability to interact through text, voice, and image seamlessly. And we're creating highly flexible local data pipelines that we actually own.
The lost tools are not actually gone. They are simply starting points for a completely new, powerful era of personal computing. The author's closing rally really captures the energy of this shift. Quote, "Let's build the tools to shape our final frontier."
That's a great line.
It really is. It is a direct invitation to take back control of our digital environments. And that brings us directly to you, the listener. As you go about your day-to-day, I want you to actively consider your own routines. Look at the software you rely on.
Find the friction.
Exactly. What is that one tedious, duct-taped workflow you have to do every single week? The one where you manually copy data from an email, paste it into a spreadsheet, reformat the dates, and upload it to a totally different platform. What is that one friction point that you could theoretically vibe code into a bespoke, localized tool right now?
The barrier is gone. The private librarian is just waiting in your machine.
It's an amazing thought. But, before we wrap up, I think there's a bigger implication here.
Yeah, this raises an important question, actually. If vibe coding empowers every single person and small team to build their own hyper-personalized local tools, what happens to collaboration?
Oh, wow. That's a really good point.
Right. If we all abandon the standardized platforms that force us to work the same way, are we moving from a world of frustrating centralized software into a future where everyone lives on their own perfectly customized, isolated digital island.
An island with a private librarian, but an island nonetheless.
Exactly. And if so, how will our beautiful bespoke tools ever learn to talk to each other?
That is a fascinating paradox to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. It's been an incredible journey exploring how we are finally taking off those mass-produced suits and learning how to tailor our digital worlds again. Keep questioning your workflows, keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Red Pill Podcast. If you enjoyed diving deep into the future of AI and media, make sure to follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay tuned. Bigger insights, bolder ideas, and game-changing discussions are coming your way. Sponsored by agencyx.net.